meeting to order. Valerie, please call the roll.
Oh no. Oh no. It's not printed. Okay.
You want to print it?
I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
It's so far away. We're just gonna do this, guys.
Pretty sure it was Craig's fault.
Huh?
Pretty sure it's Craig's fault.
Been a lot of changes this afternoon. It was all okay. It's all right. Huh? No, it'll go. Thanks. All right, it is currently 5:34. And we will call Mr. Neely.
Here.
Dr. Cross.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Breaker.
Here.
Mr. Rudd.
Here.
Mr. Ross.
Present.
And Mrs. Lyman. Here. Okay, and Dr. Crawl.
With that, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the time set aside for audience presentations. The Board of Education will take presentations under consideration to respond at the latest by the end of the next regular Board of Education meeting. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. And participants are expected to conduct themselves with civility and respect and follow the guidelines outlined in the board policy. Is there anybody here this evening that would like to address the board? With that, we will move on to reports, starting with the administrative reports.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first meeting of this next fiscal year. And it's been a long break since our last meeting. We got some catching up to do. I've got a few things to report on tonight, but before I get to some of those other minor things, we'll start with Miss Lindsay Franklin's report on physical restraint and timeout. This is an annual report that we do. We file a report with the Illinois State Board of Education. But today she has some information about restraints. These are student restraints that are sometimes necessary. And she's got some statistics about what our restraint frequency looks like. And I'll turn things over to her.
Hi, thank you very much. So as Dr. Smock has stated, every year I discuss with the board the number of restraints that are done in our district. Starting last school year, we had to submit a plan to the state as to how we were going to approach reducing the number of restraints and timeouts and isolated timeouts in the district. So just gonna give you like an overview of what is a physical restraint, and then I do have some pictures prepared for you guys so you can see what they look like and what our staff is trained in doing. So just to start with, and I think you guys received this is the ISBE definition of physical restraint. So it's when a student is being held and their movements are not being allowed to move away from you, and it's being restricted. And so it's over a period of time, and you're keeping track of it, and there's specific ways in which we have to document this. And so we start the clock when a restraint starts, and then also when it stops. And I'm gonna walk through what that looks like as well. So it also talks about what a physical restraint is not, like a momentary hold to direct a student somewhere, and I'm going to show you holds that can be used to do that as well. So there are a couple things that the ISBE specifically states that you cannot do. So there's no prone or supine, which is the same thing, but that's a student being placed face down on the floor for a physical restraint and restricting their movement. And so that is not allowed. We do not train that here. That those restraints are used at some behavioral facilities. We did consider this type of training for our Morton Academy, but chose not to go down that route and continued with the crisis prevention intervention model that we use. So this is the model that we've been using over the last several years. It is used nationwide, both education, business world, medical world. This is the type of training that's used in lots of different facilities, lots of different education facilities everywhere, as well as in Illinois. It's the one that's most recognized in Illinois as far as physical restraint training. So throughout, this is kind of their intervention model. Just so you can kind of see just the broad overview. We always start with a verbal de-escalation model and work whatever is challenging the student at that time. And you can see that kite over at the right there. And so the students cycle through those different things. And so we're trained as to how to respond to each of those. And then that model on the left, it's an integrated experience because when students are in crisis, they kind of bounce all over within this. And it doesn't necessarily go in order. But you see on the left what type of behavior is being presented to us. And then on the right, that is what we're trained in to how to respond. Any questions so far? So this is, I just briefly want to touch on conditions when we would consider restraining a student. So we've tried the verbal de-escalation strategies, they've been applied. The staff member has already called for assistance, so it's not just one staff member making this decision. And that staff member must be currently trained and they must hold their blue card. All staff members must be trained every year. They must receive 8 hours of training, and there's specific areas that we have to make sure that we target within that training. And the student, if we are going to restrain that student, they must be in danger of harming themselves or others. Okay, and so there's no reason why we should restrain a student if they are not in danger of harming themselves or others. It should not be our first go-to. So that assisting staff member that we've called to help us, and when we've decided that we're going to move into a restraint, which is a pretty big decision to do, that assisted staff member is constantly watching, see when should we disengage. You know, is the student calming down, or is there a medical reason? Maybe the student is in distress, breathing or something like that. We want to make sure that we keep the student safe. That's not happened so far, but that's something that you always want to be cautious of and watch. So the next part of this is you can't restrain longer than 30 minutes. Typically ours are 1 to 5 minutes. I think the max has been in the last 3 years I've been here is 10, but it was more like a 1 minute, added another 2 minute, and that, you know, we tried to let go and had to start over again, and the child was either trying to harm themselves or us. And so, but that's part of the regulations is 30 minutes. So I just put that up there so you would know that. But we're constantly evaluating the situation. Restraining a student is such a significant decision to make. It's something we don't want to continue doing. So we want to be able to release as soon as we can. So if a student is continuing to be in crisis after 45 to 60 minutes, we are calling the parent unless other agreements have been made with the parent, to do something different. But that's kind of, not to say that we wouldn't do it sooner, but usually it gets to that point where like, let's go ahead and call the parent. We're not getting past this situation. And typically if a student's been restrained, we've been in a lot of communication with the parent already over how we're working with them in the school. Any questions on that? Okay. So I'm going to go through some of the holds. These are exact pictures from our training that we do. So in each one of the holds, there's a low, medium, and a high level hold, and they say risk because that's the level of risk that the student is presenting. And you see an adult in this picture because, as I mentioned before, this training is provided in medical institutions and business institutions as well. And so when I go to the trainings, there's a big wide variety of people at these trainings. And so the low level risks, those are not considered a restraint. So we've often seen, someone's sitting there talking to someone, they might have their hand on them. It's considered low level. That's not considered a restraint. You'll see a low level on all of these but one. Okay. So the medium and high level, we do consider that a restraint, and then we will complete all the documentation for that, and I have to report that to the state within 48 hours. This is the second level of hold, and once again, there's that low, medium, and high. The low is not considered a restraint, medium and high is. And you can see how it increases the level, and you always have that person watching to determine when to disengage. This is the team control position. So there's not a low level here. So if you're engaging in this, this is considered a restraint. Typically, this type of situation is if we're trying to transport the student from one situation to the next, so maybe it was a low level, and then the situation becomes more significant, and so we have to do this as we're trying to get the student from one place to the next. This is this final restraint here. This is the most significant. So once again, you got the low level on the left, the medium and high. If we are doing the medium and high, these are our most significant restraining practices that we teach our staff. And so we most definitely are reporting that to the state as well. Any questions on those? Those are the restraints that our staff are taught. Okay, so I can go over some of our numbers. I think I mentioned already, we've had 55 staff members that were trained last year. We have 4 trainers in the district this past year. Amanda Rickenberg was one of them, so we will have to replace her as a trainer. I myself is one of them as well. And so across the year, we provide these trainings to make sure that everybody maintains every 12 months they're being retrained. And that's a state requirement, but it was also a district requirement. So in the past year, we had 11 physical restraints, and that was for 7 students. One student accounted for 5 of those 11, and the other 6 students, it was a one-time incident for each of those. In the report that I think you guys have this in your information, you can see that most of them fall at the beginning of the year, and as I had already mentioned, one of them was one student, and just working out those situations. A lot of times it does happen more often at the beginning of the year because it's a new environment, new teachers, new class configuration, just trying to figure out what works best for the student, and then we get that figured out and then we move forward. We always try to make sure we have a good plan at the beginning of the year, but you never know. There's some things that just you never know are gonna happen, and so we have to work through those and then find the next best plan. So on that document I had submitted to you guys, it also has over the last 6 years. And so like last year, there were a total of 8 students restrained with a total of 19. Previous to that, there were 6 students for 21 total restraints. And then it kind of continues to go. So ultimately, our goal is to have 0. And so we continue, as we've been discussing with one of our pillars for the district, social emotional intervention and working with our students and how they can regulate themselves with verbal de-escalation. That's always our first go-to. We never want to have to put our hands on a student. We want them to be able to calm on their own. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Bergman. All right, I just have a few other things to mention briefly. This is the time of year when our school buildings are torn to smithereens out there, and if you ever try to walk through them, you'll see things everywhere. Rooms cleaned out, gyms full of furniture, equipment, all kinds of different things. We always have this doubt in our mind when we get close to August, are we gonna be able to pull this all together and get everything back to where it's supposed to go? But somehow we always do. We have a great team of people that work this summer, so we're confident they will again. A few things that we're working on in terms of projects, and I think I shared a few photos with the Board of Education. We've got the Jefferson Tile project, the asbestos abatement of all the tile and other kinds of abatements, going very well, very smoothly, very quickly. They're already laying tile in the top level of Jefferson School. You know, we're doing 1 wing at a time, 3 levels though, each wing. So all the asbestos has been abated. I showed you pictures of that. I think when I sent the pictures last week, they didn't have I don't think they had any tile down. There's tile down now on the first level, and they're really progressing quickly. There'll be paint that happens, trim work, all kinds of other things to put the classrooms back to where they were, or even better than they've ever been. So that project is going really well, and we're happy with that. MHS STEM Labs, same thing. They're about at the same level. They're having tile put back right now. We don't have any of the cabinetry in yet, but that'll be one of the last steps we'll do is install all that. But we feel like that's really on target, going well, and can't wait to see that finished product. We've got a lot of roofs that are being done in the district, and those are on time and doing well. Windows at the junior high haven't been delivered yet, but we don't feel like that's going to be a problem getting those installed in time for school. But that's something we're still waiting on. We have our 3 elementary gyms, our new gyms. We had a cracking issue and some leakage with water. We worked with the contractors on a deal over the last year or 2 and resolved that, and they're going to be painting those with specialized paint to seal those cracks in the next week. So you're going to start to see work crews out there at 3 elementary gyms, specialized paint, preparing that. All the gyms will be the same color that they are now, so you may not notice a big difference when it's all said and done, but we hope to get many, many more years of life out of those, and that didn't cost us anything. So that was just part of our work through the warranty system and negotiating with them on what they'd be willing to do. So we're pleased with that outcome and look forward to that being finished as well before school starts. Here at our district office, we've got some of our administrators, Dr. Sander, Dr. Teeter, Valerie, relocated to our auditorium area. You should check out the enormous space they have in there, where they've been working out of that for several weeks. But now there's carpet back, it's been painted. I don't know if they're ever gonna move back in though. I think they like it where they're at, and it's really quiet in this hallway out here, but one of these days they'll move back in. There's some new furniture. New furniture's been delivered, so looking forward to having them back. We are still awaiting Morton High School designs. You know, we met back with the architects again, had a second walkthrough. That was in early June. I've been told that we should see a couple more options created before this week is out. I'll share them with you when I get them. And of course, we'll meet about that and start to decide, you know, what we're gonna do with some of those options. So that should be coming our way very soon. We are looking at remodeling the bookkeeping office across the hall from us, creating walls in the space where there aren't walls to create some privacy for, you know, when you're dealing with payroll and insurance and different things like that. Privacy is important. So we've got some plans in place that we're going to go out to bid on very soon and see what kind of pricing we can get for a remodel of that area. So we're investing in this building. I think we've made a lot of good improvements in the building, and look forward to continuing that. Then probably in the next year, we'll look downstairs at also upgrading the painting and carpeting and different things down there as well. So we're gonna just take it incrementally, little by little, as summers and vacations come around and we can do it conveniently. The last thing on my list is about advanced placement scores. We have our AP scores back, but I'm not going to show them to you. This is kind of a teaser. They're very good. And so Ms. Ripka will be presenting on those. I think we're pretty pleased with them. And you'll get to see those, I think, in August. We're going to be ready to do a presentation on those. Right, Mrs. Ripka?
Yes, sir.
And we also are waiting our IAR scores, and when we get those, you know, we have usually toward the very beginning of the year, Dr. Teeter does a student data presentation of our test scores. We're hoping we get those official scores back for IAR and help incorporate those into his presentation as well. So that's a few things going on in the district here this last month, and that's all I have for you today.
Any questions? Moving on to the board report, I guess. It's the president's report. I really have nothing since we've been kind of in hiatus, so out of sight, out of mind. Committees, I think the committees, we have a few committees that do need to meet here in the near future. Finance to start addressing what funds are available to do projects, and facilities to start narrowing down projects and then present to the whole board before start trying to come up with a plan. So those will be getting scheduled here in the near future. Anything to add to that, Craig?
Yeah, pretty much every committee will need to meet in the next few weeks. Policies, we have new policies to review. I don't know that there's a lot to that of depth to them, but you know, it's our routine to continue to update those, and Faith's law has impacted a lot of our policies, and there's a few more that are impacted by that law. We have extracurricular mission committee, I think we're calling it, maybe we'll rename that, but I know Dr. Sanders is working on getting that off the ground. I know Ms. Slayman has volunteered to be part of that committee, and maybe someone else would want to be part of that as well. But do you want to say anything about that committee yet?
So I started building a Google shared folder that once I start getting all the resources in, and so I'm getting all the handbooks in place, the coach's handbook, and so Scott at the junior high was able to share the junior high handbook
with that. So I'll start putting together the agenda and then start sharing those documents with everyone. I got to get some representatives from the high school and the junior high, get a couple coaches to serve on that group. And then once I have that in place, I can start sending that out for who and where we're gonna meet, so.
Does anybody want to join Amanda on that committee?
I can do that.
What?
I can do that.
Okay.
The only
And then
other,
if anybody else has ideas, it'd be good if when Joe sends that out, if people review it a little bit, can just kind of give some input, just because I think it's important just to make sure that there's a lot of new staff and just to kind of make sure everybody understands what the expectations are. And is it really helping the education process? I mean, because that's why we're here. We're here to educate children, and the activities associated are supposed to help that process, so.
I just want to repeat, I said I can if there's someone else that would like to do it.
Okay, we'll sort it out, so thanks for being willing also.
the only other committee that we haven't mentioned, I should mention, is the curriculum committee. And I had a conversation with Mr. Neely about maybe widening the scope of that committee a little bit. Right now, it's been mostly people attending TLC, which talks about curriculum, but it's been more an observation role than kind of an input role. So we thought we could expand that to really more curriculum and assessment, and to look at data and to kind of have discussions about what the data means and what we can do to improve academic performance and things like that. So I think we're going to branch that out, and I think right now that's Diane and Tom are on that committee. So we'll plan for that kind of a little tweak to that committee this year. Okay, anything else about committees or?
For the agenda building part of the committees, if we could make sure that we get, whenever we have the little committee out, send it out to the rest of the board, that would be good. Either I'm missing it or we're not getting it out in a timely manner.
Which committee did we miss?
I think the finance, I don't remember seeing the finance stuff, although we get lots of finance
Okay.
information, but I don't see from the committee.
We haven't met,
We haven't met since last fall.
And that might be.
but it's still a valid point, just to make sure that the
Definitely.
minutes, and even, I think it's even nice for the whole board knows when the committees are meeting, so if they have any concerns or input prior to the meeting, that'd be a good thing, so.
Good points.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right, that's all I have for today.
Anything else for agenda building? No, you probably already sent it out for the new teacher dinner with the date on that, probably already, I don't know if it's,
August 8th.
August 8th.
okay,
August 8th. At 5:30 at the Bertha Frank.
okay. And then you spoke about curriculum, we were, just maybe some next meeting, just have an update of how we're doing as far as putting our curriculum online and makes it accessible. You don't have to answer now, I kind of thought of that as you brought up the committee, just to make sure that we're still pushing in the right direction.
Yeah, we discussed that this afternoon, and I believe Dr. Teeter said everything is online right now except for maybe some elementary music curriculum. I
Okay.
think we've got everything else online. So we're still waiting on that.
So it'd be good for us to maybe review that a little bit and make sure it's what we expected or what we.
Can they just send us the link to be sure for each building?
Yep, it's right on our website.
Okay,
We'll send
but
you the link.
still, okay.
Absolutely, yep.
Actually, I had a parent ask me this morning about, I really wanted to look at like the curriculum for, I forget what grade, it doesn't matter what grade it was. And I was like, oh, you can just go on, it should be all posted online. Like, oh, really?
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, really. Like, go online, you should be able to find it. So we'll see.
No, that's a good thing, so. Anything else? That will move to action items. I'll accept a motion for the extra duty revisions as presented. to approve the extra duty revisions.
Move that the Board of Education approve the extra duty revisions as presented.
Support.
Any discussion?
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mrs. Lehman? Yes. Dr. Crawl? And Dr. Cross?
Yes. She leave you out?
Yeah, she.
Oh, Mr. Breaker.
I have an opinion.
I'm batting 1,000 tonight, sorry guys.
At least you caught it. I didn't pay
Yes.
attention.
You did, and you don't have to ask Diane. It's not fair.
Anyway. Now accept a motion to approve the tentative budget as presented.
I move that the Board of Education approve the tentative fiscal year 24 budget as presented and put it on display for 30 days.
I'll support that.
Lisa wants to make sure she gets some questions, so, any discussion?
Dr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Mr. Breaker?
Yes.
Dr. Crawl? Mrs. Lehman? Yes. And Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Now accept a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding, the salary placement based on academic achievement.
I move the Board of Education approve the memorandum of understanding regarding salary placement based on academic advancement.
I support.
Any discussion?
Do you need any explanation of this?
I think yeah, why don't you do that? I think you gave us notes and
Yeah.
in your update, but I think it's good for the public.
Okay, so we had language in our teacher's contract that prevented a person from having a degree in a non-educational area, let's say basket weaving or something, and then going back and getting a master's degree in education that qualified them for minimal qualifications to be a teacher. We didn't want to pay someone a master's degree salary when they really just met the minimal qualifications. So that was the intent of the language. But we have cases now where we have, particularly in special education, where someone might have a degree in elementary education, which is not basket weaving, and they receive their master's degree in special ed. That only minimally qualified them for some jobs, but they did have the elementary qualification. We want to pay those employees their master's level because they did have an educational master's or bachelor's degree prior to achieving the master's. So we need that clarification. That'll prevent us from losing some candidates that would otherwise leave. It's the way we would pay internal employees. An elementary teacher who then got a master's degree in special ed would get credit for the master's degree, so it equalizes that. And it kind of remedies a problem we're having right now, particularly with special ed teachers. Okay?
Mr. Neely?
Yes.
Mrs. Lehman? Dr. Crawl? Dr. Cross?
Yes.
Mrs. Breaker? Or Mr. Breaker?
Yes.
Mr. Rudd?
Yes.
And Mr. Roth?
Yes.
I'm gonna get tired tonight.
Just throwing it out there, last time I called you the wrong name, I brought you a
I
couple.
know. I think I have donuts.
We're gonna have a rehearsal before the next meeting.
How do you know the rest of us didn't pay her?
Accept the motion to allow for the intervention regarding the assessment of property for the Kroger property.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? You just want to throw out, it's the same for the next two items, just real quick what we're doing.
So what's happened here is these properties have gone to the Board of Review and filed a reduction in their assessed evaluation. Okay, and the Board of Review takes action on that. And that happens in the current fiscal year that we're operating in. Okay, so when the property then sees the Board of Review results, there's really nothing that they can do about it in that current year. But what they can do is they can file an appeal with the Property Tax Appeal Board. And so both of these properties have done that. So what this motion, this action that's taking place is to authorize our attorney to intervene on our behalf in these Property Tax Appeal Board cases. That they're pretty, they get stacked up out in advance. There's one Property Tax Appeal Board, and they have to hear all these cases across the state. And so what ends up happening is sometimes these cases take a long time to come up. They also require an appraisal. And so the district's gonna have to secure an appraiser to come on in. In central Illinois, there's not a lot of appraisers that do commercial properties in these types of cases. And so there's a lot of work that our attorney's gonna have to do to represent the district. And then once a decision is made, if the decision could trigger a refund on behalf of the district. Whereas on a Board of Review appeal, if there's a change in assessment, that is done prior to the final tax computation reports going on out. So then that adjustment is just made at the county clerk's office. In this case, if there is a reduction in the assessed evaluation, then the district will have to pay a refund to the companies that are the properties that are filing for the appeal. So it's in our best interest to have the representation that we need to make sure that the process is followed. I didn't necessarily say that the property tax is maintained at the rate that it was assessed at. It's just to make sure that that we're following the same process and it's being applied fairly across all properties.
Did we do this last year for Kroger?
I don't recall if we did have this with Kroger, but typically a lot of properties will do that. They will continue to file PTAP appeals.
I think they have so many times, like so many years in a row they can do it. I thought they can, but
Pretty sure we did it last year.
Yeah.
But it's my understanding that if it wasn't going to the level that they're appealing it to, that they just distribute the tax to everyone else,
Right.
the rate. However, in this case, if it takes 2 or 3 years, and that doesn't take place, we just have to refund the money. Am I saying it
For the
correctly?
past years,
That's correct.
but for the next year, it would be distributed amongst the rest of the taxpayers. But yeah, looking back, the retroactive part is a refund check we write.
Thank you.
Mr. Neely,
Yes.
Dr. Cross,
Yes.
Mrs. Lehman,
yes.
Mr. Roth,
Yes.
Mr. Rudd,
Yes.
Mr. Breaker,
Yes.
Dr. Cross.
Just waiting to hear what I was this time.
Refund still
Never
technically
live it
is
down.
borne by the rest of the taxpayers too. Right. So the whole thing is borne by the rest of the taxpayers. Yes, it's not, we're keeping that money in case. Right, I don't, assuming we're not budgeting for.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
What was that one? I'm sorry.
No, you're saying, well, it's not borne by the tax, well, if you have to refund the money, it's still borne by the rest of the taxpayers. Either way, it gets spread out in the future, but when you're paying them, that money is.
It's coming out of what they've already paid, yeah.
Yes, that's a good way to look at it, yeah.
To your point, though, it's just a little interesting, though, if Kroger saves money, the rest of us pay more.
Yes.
Now accept a motion to approve allowing for the intervention regarding assessment of property for the Peterson Holiday Inn Express.
So moved.
Support.
Dr. Cross,
Yes.
Mr. Rudd,
Yes.
Dr. Crawl, Mrs. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Neely,
Yes.
Mr. Roth,
Yes.
and Mr. Breaker.
Yes. Now accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Roth,
Yes.
Mr. Rudd,
Yes.
Dr. Cross,
Yes.
Dr. Crawl, Mrs. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Neely.
Yes.
Now accept a motion to enter into closed session for the discussion, for the personnel discussion and purchase and sale of property.
Motion to enter closed session.
Support.
Mr. Rudd,
Yes.
Dr. Cross,
Yes.
Mr. Breaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Lehman,
Yes.
Mr. Neely,
Yes.
Mr. Roth,
Yes.
and Mrs. Lehman.
Please.
Mr. Rudd, did I get everybody?
Diane, maybe.
I think I started it.
There will be a vote after closed session this evening, once we enter open again, so.
Correct.
With that, we'll take 5 minutes to tear down.